Tonight, police investigating 2 suspected arsons in Wyala over the weekend, and the sailing season gets underway in Port Lincoln.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. One man has been arrested and another is on the run following 2 separate house fires in Wyala over the weekend. Police say they're not ruling out possible links between the 2 blazes. Shari Hams has more.
Here on Havelberg Street just before 4 this morning, a blaze tore through this home with MFS crews battling to stop it spreading to neighbouring houses. Detectives were out on site today combing through evidence to piece together what happened. Emergency services rushed to the home after reports of a fire. No one was injured in the incident and it's believed the house was unoccupied. Police arrested a 22-year-old wireless Stewart man at a nearby address a short time later and charged him with numerous offences including arson and property damage. The suspect was refused bail and he will appear in the Wyala Magistrates Court tomorrow. It wasn't the only suspected deliberately lit blaze in the city over the long weekend. This Peakhaven street house is also a suspected victim of arson. Police and MFS were called to the property at 9:30 Saturday night. CCTV captured the moment where a man approaches the home on a bicycle. He then appears to throw a Molotov cocktail into the house, which catches alight seconds later. It's also believed the suspect's arm caught fire as he fled the scene. Police are still assessing both incidents and they say they're yet to rule out if there's a connection between the 2. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers.
Damning new evidence has put the York and Mid-North regions in the top 10 highest in South Australia for obesity and cholesterol. The Heart Foundation has attributed the rise to a lack of healthcare services.
Mid-North resident Diane Duffy knows all too well about heart health. Mrs Duffy and several of her 9 siblings have been affected by cardiovascular issues.
I had a scan of my heart and found out I had a lot of plaque.
Statistics show the York and Mid-North are battling the bulge, heart disease and cholesterol. A Heart Foundation report says the 2 regions are some of the worst performers in South Australia.
So we do know that they do rank highly when we're talking about obesity rate, so we need to be mindful of that. We need to look at those smoking rates as well to make sure that we get smoking rates down.
The York Peninsula ranking in the top 5 local government areas for obesity rates, while the Northern Areas District is 6. Both areas showing 75% of residents aren't meeting the minimum of exercising for 30 minutes per day.
We also know that diet plays a massive role when we're talking about heart health, so we want to be reducing salt, reducing saturated fat, things like that.
The Heart Foundation linking the high figures to a disconnection from health services.
So we need to make sure that we're connecting with regional areas to make sure they have the tools and the resources they need to lead heart healthy lives.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 36-year-old South Adelaide man has died after his truck collided into a tree near Snowtown on Saturday morning. Emergency services responded to the crash on the Augusta Highway. Members of the public and paramedics performed CPR on the driver, but he could not be saved.
As I've said many times and as we've said recently, notoriously the October long weekend is dangerous on our roads. Last year was the first time we were fatality-free for 10 years.
The state's road toll now sits at 83, compared to 55 at the same time last year. The state government is urging the public to have their say about the future of jetties and wharves in regional South Australia. Local leaders say the structures need to be recognised for their economic and social value.
A wharf and a jetty with a combined lifespan of more than 250 years. But the cracks and holes in the timber are a sign both are succumbing to old age. It's a similar story in coastal communities all over the region, and a state government strategy is aiming to manage the marine structures into the future.
Where are the important upgrades and maintenance that needs to occur from the state's viewpoint?
Community consultation on the plan will end in the beginning of November, and the Port Augusta Mayor is calling on locals to submit feedback.
They're actually putting out to get the thoughts and the aspects of people, why they like their jetties and what they use them for, and there's specific areas that use them for different reasons.
He says the structures have historical significance as well as wider benefits.
Economically, they attract our tourism, so people come here to fish, crab, swim, enjoy the foreshore and the jetties.
There are no updates on the condition of either the wharf or the West Side jetty, but the Mayor hopes the release of the strategic report next year could deliver a solution that may include government funding to repair the two ailing structures.
Well, that's what the intention will be, but we'll work through the process and work with the Minister, and hopefully you'll come out with a good result.
I think the action that is needed is a contribution on the part of the state government to maintain jetties.
To give feedback, visit the Your Say website. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come, an Eyre Peninsula author returns to promote her latest work. And anchors raised in Port Lincoln as the sailing season commences. Welcome back. Celebrated author Janice Madden has returned to Whyalla to launch her new novel. The book features different short stories and touches on environmental issues.
Returning to Whyalla for the 4th time to present her latest novel, this author is internationally recognised.
History here for me in Whyalla. And Whyalla often reminds me of my hometown in Crewe, Cheshire, where I grew up.
With a home in Whyalla's neighbouring town of Cow, she says this region gives her inspiration.
Yes, it's an old stone house in Cowell, and I write in the winter months there. I also write literally all over the place.
Staff say they appreciate her returning to the Whyalla Library, giving the region's budding writers an opportunity to speak to experienced authors.
Wonderful. It's really great to have her here. We love having her. This is her 4th visit and yeah, it's always a delight.
And the cities have a lot of coverage of people, new people and authors doing these sorts of things. But for a local library, it's really lovely.
Readers say there's an important message throughout the flower collection.
I love the way that Janice touches on the environmental issues. She's spoken today about how we're losing bees in the countryside and how the country, you know, all those lovely flowers are now diminishing.
People will talk one day, hopefully not, of the bluebells they remember in the past. I want wildflowers to continue.
Janice will continue her book tour in Port Lincoln this week. Shari Hams, 7 Spence Golf News.
3 Port Pirie residents have tested positive to drugs whilst driving over the long weekend. 2 men aged 51 and 43 have allegedly tested positive to methamphetamine, while a 44-year-old woman on her P's tested positive to cannabis. All 3 samples have been sent for detailed forensic analysis. The 43-year-old man was also found to be driving while disqualified and was arrested. He was bailed to appear in court at a later date. A Port Pirie resident has their own AFL Grand Final story to tell after taking part in the traditional halftime Auskick match last weekend. 7-year-old Jack Port even managed to kick a goal on the hallowed turf.
It's the moment every football fan dreams of. Walking out onto the grass of the MCG on Grand Final day. The moment still fresh in the heart of 7-year-old Port Pirie local Jack Porter.
I was playing on the MCG and I kicked a goal when I was on the field.
The Round 5 Oz Kicker of the Week being flown to Melbourne for a weekend to remember. Jack first gaining attention after showing off his football skills in his backyard.
I should be nabbed Oz Kicker of the Year because I've been practising my kicks just like Dusty's and I've been practising my speckies just like Jeremy here.
Jack also getting a chance to play at Marvel Stadium on Good Friday.
AFL figure there, who's that?
You.
You've made me out of Lego.
Yeah.
I like this.
Jack also had a prime seat at the NAB Oz Kicker of the Year dinner, sharing a table with Collingwood club champion Brodie Grundy.
We spoke about how many goals he got, and he got 7 goals, and I said that wasn't many.
His biggest moment of the day, presenting premiership winning defender Brandon Ellis with his medal.
I've seen him out there, walking out in the on the MCG was just something that I guess dreams are made of.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Sailors from across South Australia converged in Port Lincoln over the weekend for this year's regional regatta. It's the first stop for the season, with teams setting course for Largs Bay next month.
With the wind against their sails, more than 40 boats from across South Australia took to the water for this year's Youth Tri-Series. Clubs from as far as Adelaide making the trip to Port Lincoln for the first regatta of the season.
It's just a good way for all the kids to catch up with their mates, practice their sailing skills and see where we're at.
More than 40 young sailors competed in this weekend's regatta, including 5 boats from Port Lincoln. Max Sturman battling for the top position after coming second last year.
Should be a good afternoon session and hopefully I can keep up the results from the morning.
Some difficult weather made for some interesting sailing, putting the pressure on the junior skippers.
All the kids are going exceptionally well, having the ball, and yeah, they're just really enjoying it.
The SA people come down and have a good race and good time, and you meet with friends.
This weekend's event is the first leg in the Tri-Series, with sailors setting course for Largs Bay next month.
Having events like this really helps to promote the club, and we're always happy for new members to come down and give it a go.
The Port Lincoln Yacht Club is set to host an open day this weekend, encouraging members old and new to come along. Nathan Regatta, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Good luck to all this coming season. Stay with us after the break. A Hockey-Roo visits Port Lincoln to meet the next generation of players. And Britt will have the latest weather forecast. Hello again. Former Hockey-Roo star Anna Flanagan has visited Port Lincoln over the weekend, meeting with local clubs and players. The Olympic athlete hoping to promote the sport in regional communities.
Having represented the nation in the World Cup and Olympic Games, Anna Flanagan has had an impressive career on the field. The former Hockey-Roo star now passing on her tips and tricks to the next generation of athletes.
I really want to give back to the sport that has given me so much. I think, it is a family sport, and I always looked up to these people that encouraged me to play, and so I want to be able to give that back.
The Olympic player meeting with Port Lincoln's local hockey clubs and also taking part in a sit-down Q&A, trying to promote and encourage the sport in regional areas.
It's kind of hard for people regionally to know how do they make these Australian teams, and it's just knowing that, there is a pathway there and that they can still pursue these dreams.
Anna says regional Australia is a powerhouse for producing some of Australia's best players, such as Kieran Glovers and Brian Glencross, but says her sport is often forgotten in regional towns.
The states can probably do a bit more regionally than what is currently happening, because Australia is so big, so it is very difficult for people to be, recognised and identified.
Port Lincoln's Hockey Association says it's great to attract top athletes to regional areas to help promote the sport.
We try to bring them and try to get these sort of people here because we want to try and encourage the kids to be part of this sport.
Nathan Regatta, 7 Spencer Golf News.
And time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather this week. Here's Britt with the details.
Thanks, John, and good evening. After a hot weekend, today has been significantly milder with showers over parts of the region. Broken Hill reached 25 degrees, Port Augusta 22, Port Pirie 21, Whyalla 20, Port Lincoln 19, Adelaide 18. From the satellite, we can see cloud about the region with showers triggered by a cold front. But moving on to tomorrow, on the Gulf waters, southwesterly winds at 20 to 30 knots with seas around 2.5 metres. And thanks to daylight savings, we can expect sunrise at 6:49 in the morning. Partly cloudy conditions expected across the region, apart from Broken Hill, where it's looking to be bright and sunny. Woodna and Corn both expecting tops of 20 degrees, Port Augusta and Port Pirie both 19, Broken Hill and Kadina 18, Whyalla 17, Adelaide 16, Port Lincoln and Cleve 15, Coffin Bay and Clare both with maximums of 14 degrees tomorrow. Further through the week, and we can expect cloudy conditions at Port Lincoln on Wednesday, looking partly cloudy Thursday and Friday. Cleve, sunny with a top of 18 on Wednesday, fine and partly cloudy on Thursday. Woodna with partly cloudy conditions forecast for Wednesday and Thursday before sunny skies on Friday. Whyalla looking sunny on Wednesday, fine on Thursday and sunny again on Friday. Port Augusta with a bright and sunny day forecast on Wednesday, partly cloudy conditions Thursday and Friday. Kadina looking mostly fine Wednesday and Thursday. Sunny conditions at Port Pirie and Clare on Wednesday, looking fine and partly cloudy on Thursday, but sunny again on Friday. And finally to Broken Hill, where it's looking to remain bright and sunny through the week. And John, that's the weather segment for this Monday. Back to you.
Thanks, Britt. And that's the local news this Monday evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll have some updates later in the evening, but until then, enjoy your viewing here on 7. On behalf of the team, it's good night.